The Team VVV Awards 2018, sponsored by Ben Green Racing and Thrustmaster. Hello viewers and welcome to the third of our podcasts for the Team VVV Awards 2018. Of course, part one we saw Best Surprise, and then we saw another big category yesterday with Best Graphics. Now it's another biggie with Best Audio. Very competitive in the world of motorsport. It's something we've all wanted to see improved in the video game world. And of course, I'm joined here today by Martin.
Hi guys.
And Kevin.
Hello.
So chaps, it's been a competitive year in terms of audio. Everybody's trying to up their game bit by bit, pushing everybody forward. I'd like to think that we've done our fair bit of complaining on here about various games as well over the past years. We have, of course, a few games here on this list. We have Forza Motorsport 7, MotoGP 17, Project Cars 2, Dirt 4, Gran Turismo Sport and MXGP3, which are all the nominations for the awards this year. So I guess I'll kick off with Forza Motorsport 7, which certainly has a wide variety of cars. I think it has a really solid sort of range of audio to it, if somewhat unspectacular at times, but certainly there's good range. Martin, I guess kicking off with yourself, rather than going through each title one by one here, I think really it's a chat about all of the titles really in terms of what's caught your eye in terms of audio this year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess MotoGP 17 was a bit of a standout because we complained so often about Milestone's audio quality, but yeah, in MotoGP 17 they had such a more sort of organic quality to them, you know. I think you said before, when you go to a real life MotoGP race, the sound is just, you know, ear piercingly loud. And I think the game really conveyed that very well. So yeah, massive step up there for Milestone. Also, Project Cars 2. Again, there's a real focus in that game on authenticity. And again, I think in the audio department, they really pulled that off. Every car sounds distinctly different to each one. You've got the V8 growl of a Jaguar F-Type or something like that. It has that kind of aggression as it does in real life. Whereas in other racing games, that same sort of grunt might be missing. It might sound a bit weak in comparison. And then there's just other subtle sound effects, like the wipers grazing on the windscreen before the rain comes in. Yeah, it really adds to it. I'm not so keen actually on the tyre squealing sounds in that game. In some ways, they're as bad as Gran Turismo. But actually saying that, I think they have changed it. Also, actually, whilst we're still talking about Project Cars 2, even the music score for it's not something we really talk about very often, but sort of grandiose kind of music score to it. It was like watching a film, like a big blockbuster film.
Yeah,
and that really conveyed the kind of sense of excitement a driver has, that sort of anticipation before the start of the race. So it's a nice little touch there, I thought. Yeah, that's my standouts anyway.
Yeah, if I just have a quick sort of overview of all these titles, Forza Motorsport 7, you know, it's more or less what we expect really. You have sort of aggressive sounding cars, but not necessarily accurate to the real world cars. They do sound good, but perhaps, you know, it's a little bit overdone in some respects. MotoGP 17 for me is a standout title because they've improved massively in terms of audio. I mean, this is not on the Unreal Engine 4 as well, we must point out. So they seem to just have this incredible step up just as they get into the end of their sort of own proprietary engine. So it's a shame that it took this long to get this, but, you know, we look forward to next year's title on Unreal Engine 4. Project Cars 2 is more or less what we expect. You know, you have this fantastic overall sound. You know, Project Cars 2 certainly doesn't disappoint. It has the, like you say, Martin, that authenticity that we expect. And, you know, Project Cars 2 certainly does tick all those boxes. You have this amazing range of vehicles and they all sound pretty delightful. Dirt 4 for me, good audio as expected from Codemasters, but for me, it didn't quite live up to the audio from what we saw with Dirt Rally, which of course won awards last year. You know, for me, it just doesn't quite have that same essence that Dirt Rally has. It's a little bit of a step down for me. So unfortunately, you know, it trails behind a little bit compared to some of these other titles. GT Sport, of course, improving all the time. incremental improvements though, and not quite got that jump up that we've seen with, say, MotoGP 17. So it is a shame that even after all these years, we waited 4 years for a Gran Turismo title on the PS4, which will probably be the only one, I might add, and it still doesn't have that audio to even come close to matching the visuals, which is such a shame.
They're a lot better though, aren't they, than the previous games? I just want to add.
Yeah, it's going in the right direction, but we're still not hitting that level that we want. You know, it's still underwhelming ultimately, which is a real shame. MXGP3 for me, you know, improvements again in audio, but you know, surprisingly not as much as a step up as, say, MotoGP 17, which of course they also developed. So you know, it's improved, but perhaps not on par with some of the improvements that we've seen. But for me, the two standout titles are MotoGP 17 and Project Cars 2.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's been an interesting year for audio. I mean, Forza Motorsport 7, of course, was it was solid if unspectacular. I think there's still a certain gaminess to the sound, whereas MotoGP, what I really liked about that was the distortion of these 20 bikes running together. It created an echoing distortion between all the different bikes, and it was unique, and it was spectacular, and it was real. And the problem is a lot of people who watch, it's surprising how many sort of armchair comments you get on YouTube and Facebook from people who say it doesn't sound like that, because all their experiences is watching these sports on television. The bikes don't sound like that in real life. You know, it's the same with Formula One cars, or they were deafening. And you know, it's a very different sound, and that sound that you're hearing of all those bikes together is pretty much spot on. You know, they've really done an incredible job there. So MotoGP was a big surprise. Project Cars 2, I felt they did a good job in Project Cars 1 when it came to grunt. Project Cars 2, again, I think they've got a lot of good effects in there. Really nice audio in terms of the overall package. You know, replays. You know, I'm not saying it's perfect. You know, not all the cars have the engine note. You know, but spot effects and details. There's lots of work that's gone into Project Cars 2 for an amazing range of cars. You know, and they've really given each one a unique sort of.
I think that's the difference, because in Forza you've got a lot more cars, but a lot of them you could probably argue sound quite similar, whereas in Project Cars 2 they are very distinct.
Agreed.
Very distinct. Yeah, they have such a character to them.
And
I think
actually,
I think they've done an incredible job. So Dirt 4, again, as you were saying, there was something about it that wasn't as detailed in terms of, you know, maybe because the environments were rendered differently or whatever, I don't know, but it was solid, but not as spectacular as I was hoping it would be in terms of step forward. I think Gran Turismo Sport as another big one. It's improving, you know, it's getting better.
Baby steps.
And there have been some steps, you know, that it's looking and feeling, playing better all the time, and it did improve as the year went on. You know, I did feel there was general improvements here and there, and they're still coming, those improvements, but we can't rate where it is now. We have to rate where it was in 2017, and it was solid but unspectacular, but certainly developing. It's definitely a work in progress, and they are making progress there. And then finally, consideration, of course, was MXGP3, which I felt got a hard time from the fans. I felt they were quite critical about it. And I don't fully understand where the criticism comes from when you're telling people this is the best sounding dirt bike game there's ever been. You know, I don't really know of one that sounds better than this, having played virtually all of them. Again, it really depends on, you know, a lot of armchair people voting. And as I've been saying for a long time, the sounds in video games are too pure. They're not distorted enough in terms of the real sound that we actually hear. They've always been too pure. And I've been saying that to Milestone for a long time. And they've really worked on that. And that's why MotoGP really took that all forward. So kudos to Milestone. You know, they've made great progress in graphics, physics, audio. You know, it's really coming along, and gameplay over the past year, and they've done an incredible job. But in terms of top two, just like Kevin, really, I feel that MotoGP and Project Cars 2 have been standout surprises this year. And if you've played all of these games, you'll see the subtlety between all of them. Obviously, everyone has their own opinion, but they really did stand out to me as very impressive. So certainly MotoGP and Project Cars 2 are my standout 2 games of the year. I mean, they really have moved forward in various different ways in terms of audio and really capturing the character and engine notes of real motorsport. That's not to say it's all perfect, but it steps in the right direction. But if I was to vote for one game, it would be Project Cars 2 because of the scale and the range of sounds and audio and effects that they have on offer. And again, not perfect, but certainly when it comes to the range that we've got on offer, certainly they were the standout of the year.
Yeah, I'm the same, to be honest. For me, Project Cars 2 has the edge. Just for how it's managed to capture the kind of individual character of each car really well. And like
Absolutely.
I said earlier, the combination of the sort of subtle environmental effects, the cockpit sounds, even like I said, the music in the menu, it all adds to the immersion and the overall atmosphere. So yeah, Project Cars 2 is definitely the winner for me for audio.
For me, I'm sort of torn between MotoGP 17 and Project Cars 2. I'm happy to award either of these 2 titles. I think Milestone have made amazing steps in audio recently, so that has to be commended. And of course, Project Cars 2, we expect this high quality audio, and of course, they delivered with Project Cars 2. So overall, I think we're going to award this to Project Cars 2.
Yeah, Project Cars 2 then is the winner then of the best audio nominations. A competitive year. Again, great progress made in the last few years, really, on audio compared to where we were. And it's going to be interesting to see how some of these games and franchises evolve and develop over the next few years. But that's it for this episode. I'd like to thank Martin and Kevin for coming on board today, having a bit of chat about the best audio games. The winner, of course, is Project Cars 2. And, of course, we've now awarded our first 3 awards of the VVV Awards. I'll follow more of that on the website. There'll be more to come in the coming days, and there'll be more from us very soon. The Team VVV Awards 2018, sponsored by Ben Green Racing and Thrustmaster.